Welcome to the council members. It's good to see everyone. If you can't see me, it's because our Wi-Fi went out earlier today, but I can see you. So it's good to see everybody. During today's meeting, the council will finalize the draft, the K-12 literacy strategy for the Center for Literacy Research and Reading Success. We'll also have time to discuss the mandated collection and independent random reviews. This is kind of a new item for the agenda because it's timely and relevant to our work. Kati, let's begin with roll call, please.
Dr. Matthew Conway.
Here.
Thank you. Dr. Michael Coyne. Dr. Margie Gillis.
I'm here. Glad to see everyone.
Stephen Hernandez. Dr. Melissa Hickey.
Here.
Gary Highsmith. Yasmin Ifir Vicente.
Here.
Dr. Tamu Lucero.
Here.
Dr. Ashley Oldham. Chandra Scott Brown.
Here.
Dr. James Abadenchik. All right, we are all set. Roll call is now complete. Thank you.
Thank you, Kati. And Dr. Oldham did state that she would be coming in a little late today. Council members, just so that you know, Dr. Hickey did receive a letter of resignation from Miss Kim Healy. We have appreciated Miss Healy's service and her efforts the past 3 years on the council and certainly wish her well. The next order of business is to accept the minutes from the council's both June 17th, 2025 meeting and from the council's August 19th, 2025 meeting. Just so you know, we are revisiting the prior approval of the June 17th minutes as the link to the public meeting was not available to the public. So we are just doing the actual formality of that. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes dated June 17th, 2025?
I'll move it.
A second here, Steve Hernandez, and with that, I'd like to acknowledge that I am present. Had a little technical difficulty, but I am here.
Well, and you can see by the screens that we're having technical difficulties across. There are a few people we cannot see, but we can hear today. So you're not the only one.
Glad you're here.
And I think, Tamu, do you have your hand up? Oh, but now you're.
Okay, so we did have the initial motion to approve from Stephen Hernandez, and I believe the second was from Tamu Lucero. Is that correct?
I can, but that's not why I have my hand raised, but yes, I second it too.
Okay, great. Discussion on the motion from the council? Dr. Lucero, is your hand up for the discussion?
For a different reason, sorry. I got in the middle of a motion, sorry.
Okay, that's quite all right, understandable. So all in favor of approving the minutes, please either raise your hand or use the raise hand button on your screen. Thank you. And any opposed? Please, if everybody can turn their button off, and then if you do oppose, please use the raise hand button. Okay, awesome. Seeing or hearing no objection, the motion passes. We're
And
going to
we-
do the,
Oh, I was just gonna say, we do have some other members who have joined. And I didn't know
okay,
if
I
you
don't
could
see
see that.
anybody else on my screen, so.
Okay, yep, we do. So if you've just joined the meetings, could you just say hello? So we're having a few people, as you can see by the screen, are having some technical difficulties today. I don't know if it's left over from the weather or what, but go ahead.
Yeah, hi,
please.
hi everyone. This is Mike Coyne. I'm glad to be here with you all. Could you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
perfectly.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, James Evajancic. I'm now present.
Thank you,
Thank
James.
you. Is there anyone else? Beautiful. Thank you.
Okay, and Dr. Lucero, I'm going to continue with the second minutes from August 19th. So did you have a question in between?
Oh, now
Whenever you're taking questions, I will ask my question. I didn't mean to get in the middle of your motions. Go right ahead. Sorry.
Okay, just double checking. Okay, so now we're going to move to the minutes for August 19th, 2025, the most recent meeting. Do we have a motion to approve those minutes?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. And a second?
I'll second. Margie.
Thank you, Margie. Discussion on the motion from the council? Seeing and hearing no discussion, then all in favor of approving the minutes, please either raise your hand or use the raise hand button on your screen. Okay, thank you. And all those opposed, those of you who have already unclicked, hopefully, your raise hand button, all who oppose, please raise your hand or use the raise hand button. All right. Seeing or hearing no objection, the motion passes. So thank you. Kati, do we have any council members who have contacted you to sign up in advance for members' comments and insights?
Hi, no members signed up for this section.
Okay, then I think we're going to use this time, even though I don't think Dr. Oldham has joined us, but Dr.
She is
Hickey-
on now. I'm sorry to interrupt,
she
Dr. Stoltz.
is.
She is here.
Okay, awesome.
Sorry.
Hi, Dr. Oldham. Welcome. We knew that you were coming in a few minutes late, but perfect timing because I saw something on LinkedIn just the other day where you were pictured receiving an award. Would you like to inform the council of the award and the circumstances?
Oh, sure. How wonderful to be late for a meeting and get that opportunity. Yeah, so the University of St. Joseph Educator Preparation Programs were awarded the Frank Murray Leadership for Continuous Improvement for having no areas for improvement or any stipulations in our most recent CAPE accreditation. So we received the award in Washington, D.C. last month, and we're very proud and very excited about partnering with schools and communities to prepare really great teachers for our kids. So thank you.
Nice job.
Excellent, and congratulations.
Well
to you and
deserved.
your team.
Congratulations. Yeah.
And
Congratulations.
then I saw something on LinkedIn. Dr. Zavidenchek, you did some research and it was acknowledged. So do you want to share about that?
We two colleagues and I had a article published in the National Association of Secondary School Principals, Principal Leadership magazine on dyslexia legislation and laws. So thank you.
Bravo,
job.
congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Honored to be among so many amazing people.
Yes, definitely. So with that, we are going to move on to the literacy strategy
Ooh,
draft.
Dr. Tamu, Lucero
okay.
still has her hand up, and then Stephen Hernandez has his up as well.
Okay,
Sorry
thank
to
you
interrupt.
so much. Dr. Lucero?
So I want to just go back to your announcement at the beginning of the meeting about Kim. Is there any way, I don't know if she shared in the letter or the council's allowed to know why she is resigning? And if not, it's fine. I just think that if it's available, it would be helpful to know. And then I've not been on since we've had to replace someone. Is there a process for replacing a member?
Sure. So I have her email. I can read it to you now. And if I can get into my emails. And then the process is each of you are appointed by a legislative body. So it would be up to her person to put forward another name. So that is the process. And let me find that. Or even Kati, can you find that email? I'm looking on my phone since I'm sharing my screen here. There really wasn't a reason, but I would like to share that email.
And it doesn't have to be right now. It can be anytime.
It's not a big deal. I just need to find it, so I apologize. Here we go. I did find it. So Kati, don't worry about it. It says, "Hi, Melissa. I hereby resign from my position as an appointed member of the Reading Leadership Implementation Council effective immediately. I have informed Vin Candelora, the minority leader, in a separate communication. After almost 4 years on the council advocating for the change needed in Connecticut to improve literacy outcomes for all children, I am no longer able to serve in this capacity. I am deeply grateful for the opportunity to contribute to this important work and to support efforts that ensure every child has the tools to succeed through reading. I remain committed to advancing literacy and will continue to champion this cause in other ways. I extend my appreciation to you and the other council members. Best regards, Kim Healy."
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Oh, sure. Thank you for asking. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Dr. Hickey. And then, so just to deepen the question from Dr. Lucero, do we wait until we hear from Mr. Candeloro, or what happens in the interim?
Our legislative liaison is going to be handling that, and it is up to him as to who he would like to appoint. So when he's ready, we shall hear from him and from our legislative liaison.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sure.
Stephen Hernandez?
Yep.
Thank you so much. I just wanted, firstly, thank you for the procedural detail. That's really important. And also on the prospect of another appointment to the board, I wanted to note to the council, some of the accolades that we were hearing earlier for our fellow council members. You are practitioners, you are experts, you are people doing the work. And I think that that's so critically important for a body like this one. And I want to note that equally important is having the voices of parents and people in community. So I hope that if the good minority leader is listening, I know that he also has a good mind for people in community having a strong voice in panels like these, especially when it comes to delivering good quality science-based reading to young people. So I just wanted to give a shout out to my co-counsels and just for your expertise and your hard work in this field.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hernandez. Well said. Dr. Hickey, would you like to update the council on the most recent draft and probably ask for any feedback that the council has right now?
Sure. Thank you so much. So based on our last two meetings, I really enjoyed protocols. I think it gets a lot of conversation started. So far we have not heard any feedback. If there's changes or edits, that can certainly come up in this conversation. I am curious if you could just take a minute or two, because I know that you have seen the updated draft. So first of all, thank you so much to the group that assisted with this. Thank you for the center team who then took those words and put them into words here. And thank you all for your editing and looking and reviewing. What I'm curious about is after you read this, are there still questions that are circling in your mind? What squared with you? So what did you read that really reinforced something you believe in? And what are some key points, 3, hence the triangle, or important parts that you wanted to share with others? So if you could take one of these questions about questions, something that squares with you, or some key points, and then we can share out with the group. So we'll give you a minute or two to have some think time about that, and just to look at the email that Kati did send with the newest one attached. And then we can have a conversation. I'll time that.
We're looking at the draft K-12 strategy, right?
Correct. Yes. Yes.
And I think for time's sake, if you do have a response to any of these 3, just put your raise hand button on, and then either Melissa or I can acknowledge your question or comment.
You have about 10 more minutes of think time. Okay. So when you're ready, are there questions circling in your mind? What squared with you, reinforced your understanding? And what are some key points that you would like to share with us?
So Dr. Hickey, I could certainly kick off one idea.
Sure, that'd be
Or
great.
one thought, if that's okay. I know I'm typically the facilitator, but also have a vested interest in everything that comes from the council and from your office. So throughout the document, of course, one of the many important subsections are reflective of culture for all students that is established in any given district and school. So the one that resonates with me, foster a culture where all students are seen as capable literacy learners who take ownership of their growth and where instruction. So as soon as I see instruction, I'm thinking about what is happening on behalf of every student. That instruction honors and integrates their identities, experiences, and perspectives. So my question to the council is, first I thought the word abilities needs to be there near the end. And then I batted that around a little bit and went to proficiencies. So we're acknowledging the entire child, including how they receive and respond and engage with instruction. And then I landed on strengths. One of those I think is important to put in and add to that list of attributes. So probably strengths or proficiencies would resonate with me.
So Ellen, I'm sorry, you probably said this and I missed it. What page are you on?
Well, it starts on page 4, but
Okay.
it appears on almost every list for the district and for school leaders K through 3 and 4 through 12. And I believe it's one of maybe the 4th one down. Again, I have all 3 devices working here and I really can't
That is
toggle
correct.
off where I am because I'll lose something.
Yes, I found it. 4th bullet down on page 4. Thank you. And you're thinking what should happen there? What are you suggesting?
At the end of the sentence,
Mhm.
where it says, and where instruction honors and integrates their identities, experiences, I think either strengths and perspectives or proficiencies and perspectives. So we're also looking at how learners learn and how instruction needs to be customized or personalized to every student.
So that's a question that is circling around in Ellen's mind. Anyone have ideas? And Stephen, is your hand raised about this specific one, or do you have another? Okay, so you'll be next.
No, but I do have a reflection on that, and I just
Okay.
I'm really grateful for you bringing this up, Ellen, because you know, there's been such a movement in the past 100 years to sort of bring a level of education that is homogenizes, I think is too strong a word, but that meets society and meets children. And I think that this type of individualized instruction that meets the child where they are, especially given the resources that we have and the technologies that we have, I think is really important to engage a child that is at risk, especially of disconnect. So I really want to lift that up.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. That's exactly how I see it and why I see it. Any other comments? Any other questions?
Dr. Oldham, Ashley.
Yeah, I really like centering strengths. I think it's something we talk a lot about in educator preparation. And as a mother of a child who had a really hard time learning to read and, has dyslexia, I've been always from the beginning talking about all the strengths he brings to really hard things. And I think that we want teacher educators not just thinking about, the place that's most hard for them, right? They have to think about that because that's the place where they need to do transformative evidence-aligned instruction. But that has to be really grounded in this sense of what this child brings from an assets perspective right in this moment. And that they have a lot of strengths and that our ability as teachers, parents, community members to be thinking about that, I think is really, really important. So I really agree.
And now you threw
Thank
another
you.
term in the mix because
Uh-oh.
now we have, is it strengths, proficiency, and assets?
I love all of those words. So I'll let someone else decide which words are the best words, but
we could put them all, but I do think that'd be overkill.
Yeah.
Dr. Gillis.
Actually, it's a perfect segue to what I wanted to acknowledge in this draft. I'm not going to weigh in on which term to use, but I do think terminology is really, really important. I say that all the time. Terminology trips us up if we don't have a common language, common understanding. There's a lot of confusion, even when those terms are defined. So thank you for including that in this draft. I really like the way you described big ideas, including the one you just noted. Ashley, and also the resources that you have at the end. I mean, there's just so many things that we could point people to, but I think giving links to information to deepen the reader's understanding of all of this is always helpful. I guess my big question, so I'm sort of going backwards here, but my big question has to do with implementation. Like we've been trying to implement K3 strategy for years. So my question is, how are we going to ensure that we set the 4th through 12th grade teachers, administrators, students up for success in thinking about what is implementation going to look like? It's a big question. I know you address it. I mean, it's certainly all the steps are there, but that doesn't mean we're really helping people figure out how to do this work. And I think it's even harder to do it in the upper grades because we don't have the same assessments. We don't have the same, teachers don't have the background in many cases. Like there's so many kids have had years of failure. So they not only have an academic difficulty, they might also have an issue with self-esteem that impacts behavior. Like we know all the things. I just want to talk, just think about the implementation piece of this.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's really important, the 412. And I think at one of our last meetings, that conversation was really starting about, Superintendent Highsmith talked about, if I recall correctly, he can correct me. He was talking about the higher grades as well as what do those schools look like across districts. So I think that is an interesting conversation to have. Dr. Lucero brought it up too about, how do we make this come to life for our students who are still in the school system beyond the age of 18. Once again, if I summarize that correctly or not, please interrupt. So I do think that's important. How do we address the students beyond grade 4? We have started with ReadCon it used to be K3. Now it's K12, and that is directly in reaction to, oh good, I think we're getting over some of our internet difficulties. I'm starting to see more and more people pop on. So Dr. Stolz, we can see you now. We can see Mr. Highsmith now. So this is great. I'm trying to see who else was not showing up before. So anyways, I think these are good thoughts. Also, I'm wondering, Dr. Gillis, you said about like common language, and Dr. Oldham brought up the word strengths and how they always teach that in school. Is that the word we use if that's more common to say strengths? Would people understand that? Yeah, no? Okay, I was trying. All right. Okay, so Dr. Gillis, you spoke, right? So your number 1 hand is set. Yes? Pardon? You're on mute. Oh,
I just
you're
lowered it.
Okay.
Thank you for letting me know. Looks like
And that
Dr.
makes-
Lucero's got her hand up.
Correct. She's next. Go ahead, Dr. Lucero.
I think what is circling around in my brain is there's all of this language about coaching and professional learning. It goes back to Dr. Gillis's point about the how related to that. If it's not included in our pre-service programs for educators, which you will hear me repeat over and over and over again, then how do we get to the point that you feel confident that you can be a literacy teacher, even in your content area? So I do think that there are 2 pieces of this. One, that you have students who maybe we can front load vocabulary and all those great skills that I think we can train any teacher to do. But I think everyone on this call will recognize how complicated it is to teach reading after 3rd grade. And so we need to make sure that we're just not putting things on a piece of paper. And I think that I saw that the word professional learning comes up 26 times. So we know it's important, but the how about it, I think is going to, we're really going to have to figure out what that looks like, because just to expect someone to be able to come in and take 1 day of professional development and feel like they are a person who can even start to think about teaching literacy would be unrealistic.
Yeah, great points. Thank you for sharing. And I think what's so important too is to go back to something that Mr. Hernandez was saying, was the importance of us and our roles and the people with whom we work and our stakeholders. So, you know, sometimes we can just control in our sphere, right? But if we all have these places, we can have these conversations to say, we're seeing this need in 412. So how can our stakeholder groups support us in supporting 412? Because we can't do it alone. So there's a lot of power with us. I think this is great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Mr. Hernandez, your hand is up.
Yes, thank you. And I wonder if I can, if we can move on to a circle, if I can propose a circle or.
Yeah. Yes,
right,
yes. Dr. Lucero just did hers. So yeah, perfect.
Great. So, you know, there are a couple of things. One, maybe circles that overlap, but one is on operations, right? The angels are in the details. And when I think about how it is that you're looking at adolescent appropriate instruction in particular, you really want to make sure that you have the right diagnostics, the right screening. And I don't know that we get that specific here. I don't know whether this is the right place to get that specific, but I'm wondering, do you have a plan to endorse, to list specific types of screeners and diagnostics, especially for this age group, and then think about cut points as well? And then, so that's my first circle. And the second one would be on high dosage tutoring. And, you know, there are a lot of resources that are coming to the state or that are coming to our in appropriation in the second year of the biennium. And of course, there's some leverage resources that we could bring from other places. So I'm wondering, including some federal opportunities that may seem untouchable, but are actually quite interesting if you think of it from the perspective of tutoring. So I'm wondering how it is that we scale our tutoring efforts. You know, what are the expectations of the department in terms of what high dosage means and how it's being leveraged? So those are just a couple of things, a couple of circles that I'm thinking about.
Your questions can be whole conversations. So thank you for raising those. And I can answer a few things. We are really fortunate because we have our Chief Academic Officer here today, Irene Parisi, who is the one that works with the high dosage tutoring, as well as Dr. Hughes, who's here. We always appreciate their support. To go back to your question about the assessments. So based on the work that we are doing as a council, I have started engaging with other states to see what are they doing for the upper grades. And that is not an easy question. So there's a few assessments out there that other states and districts are using. It seems to come down to 2, and I do not have those in front of me right now. I want to say one was, I want to say it's like Stanford, but please don't quote me on that. But there are 2 assessments that seem to bubble up frequently. It's not in our plans right now. As far as I'm aware, to be looking at assessments for those older grades. I would love to hear about what districts are doing, and maybe we can talk about common practices across and what they're seeing is working well. And even we could have some districts come here to the council and have that conversation. That can be a future question. I'll write that down if you don't mind. So thank you for raising the questions. I may not have the answers, but I hope I can find others who do, right? We surround ourselves. Dr. Lucero, and then, I'm sorry, Irene, did you want to talk a little bit about the high dosage?
Just what I wanted to provide for everyone is just what the high dosage tutoring program was in the previous years in utilizing our relief funding. So I'm just going to put the link in the chat. So that might answer some of the questions like how do we define it?
Oh, our
Oh,
chat
the
doesn't
chat.
work.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So
We can send that to them.
Yes, I think that's important to understand what the tutoring program was. Yes, there is an additional appropriation of funding for high dosage tutoring, but as you unpack that public act, there are some things that we have to do. So that, like you said, it could be a whole other conversation. Understanding which content areas might it be used for and so on. But we do have a site page that's dedicated to deeply understanding high dosage tutoring, along with the report from our research collaborative, CCERC, with the idea of beyond recovery and the funding. And so I think those resources might assist in understanding how we define and how it was utilized. And we might want to just begin with the FAQ maybe. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you. Dr. Lucero. Oh, you're muted again. Teams does that sometimes
As we're
automatically.
going out and thinking about best practices in school districts, I wonder if we might be able to send something to our colleagues in pre-service programs to see what are some things that they're doing that we might be able to, especially if we have graduates from particular universities, that we would be able to capitalize on at the school level, district level.
I love that. We could actually give everyone here homework. Or they need to go and ask, once again, the people that they know and gather up what they say. And we can talk about that at a future meeting. You can talk to your fellow districts, other professors, parents, whomever out there. I think that would be great. And then come together and see what kind of landed on that conversation. Is there anything common? Okay, I'm writing that down even further. Thank you so much.
Melissa, I love your idea, but I also think something formal that goes out from this committee to pre-service programs also might get a more comprehensive idea of what's going on at the universities.
I'm just writing it down.
No worries.
Okay. All right, maybe
I
we can
see
put together a
that-
committee on that. I'm sorry, Dr. Stoltz?
And Dr. Well, I see that Dr. Oldham has her hand up.
Yep, Superintendent Highsmith did first.
Okay, he's not on my screen, but I can find him. Superintendent Highsmith, there you are.
Yeah, I'm here. Thanks.
Hi, welcome.
I appreciate it. So I just want to sort of reiterate one of the points I made last time, and that the professional learning precedes a selection of a program. One of the things I learned from the science of reading is that was an effective approach to use, to do the learning first and let the learning lead us to any programming that may or may not be recommended. And I know way back in the day when I was getting certified before, I think it was around 1880 when I was getting certified to be a teacher. One of the classes that I ended up taking was adolescent psychology. And I remember it as much for what I learned about adolescents as I did about what their thinking was. And I'm wondering if pre-service programming is still making available sort of adolescent and pre-adolescent development within a context of learning, not just in the context sort of thinking and cognition, but actually how kids learn. Because what I'm experiencing is that there seems to be an increasing gulf with what adults know about how kids, adolescents learn and about how adolescents actually learn. So if there's some way for us to address that gap, it would be helpful, and maybe to sort of shorten the band for purposes of construction, shorten the band to maybe 4-8, because 9-12 strikes me as an entirely different monster than 4-8 could ever be. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Dr. Oldham.
And Dr. Oldham.
Yeah, I was just hoping to make sure I understood Dr. Lucero's question. Like, what does she? I was just looking for her to say a little bit more about what she was hoping to gain from the educator preparation programs, like in terms of what assessments are we teaching. I wanted to hear more of what you were saying, and I appreciate Superintendent Highsmith's comments as well around centering of the science of teaching and learning across our preparatory programs. So I was just wondering if I could ask Dr. Sarah to say a
Yeah,
little
I can
bit
talk about
more.
it all day.
Okay.
Yeah,
Is that
so
okay?
no, if it's okay with the council, I'm happy to speak to what I mean about it, because I use it in every example that I go through. Is that I think it's helpful when we're thinking about who's entering our classrooms, understanding what knowledge they're leaving with, or what you hope they left with, in terms of being prepared on day one to teach. And so is it that they take one reading course, 2 reading courses, and what is on the syllabus of those reading courses? And so are you teaching reading strategies, or are you just teaching the theory of reading? And so I think it would be helpful to know where our starting point is, right? Because we want to pick them up the very first day and start providing them with the professional development that they need. And what I have found over the years is that we often have staff who come from particular universities, right? And so if we were able to say, we know that Ohio State does a phenomenal job of preparing their teachers in reading, then we know that maybe Michigan does not prepare their students well at all. If anyone got my joke, Michigan, Ohio State, that we would know where our starting point is, And so I just feel like we're working as if we're separate entities, but we would hope the universities would want us to be able to say, wow, they always produce really good reading teachers, right? And so, and as we go into this next phase of really looking at 412 being literacy experts also, because that is not the case now, right? If that's where we're going, then the universities deserve to know that, so that they can start to pivot, and if the universities haven't even bought into the science of reading, and that's what our basic level of instruction should be, that they understand it, the concept of it. But at this point, we don't know that about one another, right? So we don't know where the starting point would be.
Oh, thank you for clarifying, because I thought you meant go to the universities to find out about assessments for the upper
I didn't
grades.
say anything about assessments.
Oh, I thought you were piggybacking off of that conversation. Okay. Oh, so it's 2 separate. Thank you for clarifying.
If they have great assessments too, have at it. I'll take that information also if they're training their teachers on it. But I don't know that that's happening either. And I don't want to make assumptions that things are happening. All we know is that some of our teachers are coming in very uncomfortable with the idea that they have to teach a child how to read, to the point that you have some teachers who share with me that until we provided them the professional development that we provide, that they felt like they didn't have any tools or tricks because of the limited support they got in that area in their pre-service program. I don't know if that answered your question.
Well, I think too, you know, looking to the future, the Office of Dyslexia and Reading Disabilities, that's housed here also at the State Department. We work very close together with them, and they recently passed the competencies. And these competencies are what the university and college programs will be obligated to teach and ensure that when their students graduate, they are competent. They have this down. In the meantime, I do think there is going to be a need for current teachers to have some lift in professional learning and knowledge that they may not have gotten, which I appreciate so many of you in your districts do this. You have this great quality professional learning. You come to a lot of what we as a state offer. You were able to retain some of your coaches, and we know how important it is to have that embedded learning for teachers. So thank you once again for clarifying. I misunderstood what you were saying. And at some point in the future too, we could have the Office of Dyslexia come and have a conversation on that. I'm just writing down all these future. Before we know it, the year's going to be over. But this is great stuff. Dr. Stoltz, did you want to say anything? I know there's a few more people who have not yet talked, and I would love to hear from them if they have questions or if anything really resonated with them. Is there anything, Dr. Stoltz, you wanted to say before I maybe cold call people?
Well, just solidifying, I think from our conversation, of course, there's lots of dimensions here. What happens before teachers come to us, their professional development and course requirements. We have the separation of 4 through 8 and 9 through 12 to consider. There's lots of information, questions, I think, that we could identify with circle, square, and triangle to guide our work. Looking at high dosage tutoring as a very precise research-based system. All these are possibilities, but of course we have students in classrooms right this very minute. So adding strengths was really the beginning of this conversation. So I think we may be able to go ahead and just add strengths. So at least we know we are looking at students. As Mr. Hernandez, you also commented on. So we're looking at the students that are in front of us in classrooms every day and adding that strength in light of instruction. But I think you may have to cold call for us to continue this conversation for anybody who perhaps has something to contribute and has not had a chance yet.
I'll go alphabetical by last name. So I'm Stephanie Brown. Our beloved
it's me
principal.
next, yes. I have my head, I've been quiet because everything that everyone has shared up to this point, I can get really totally behind, and I'm like, yes. But what comes to mind is we're trying our best to do a lot of different things at the same time, which are all equally important. There is a place for the conversation about higher ed that needs to happen because they're producing our future practitioners. I'm also very concerned about what are we doing for the professionals who are in classrooms today, and how do we enrich their professional learning so they are able to combat some of the challenges for teaching reading and around, and also with the science of reading. But I also want to go back to what Superintendent said, and it made a lot of sense to me if we looked at K-3 and 4 to 8, because, making sure that continuum flows in a way that when we get to 9 to 12, we have provided and scaffold all the necessary strategies before we look at the last few years of high school, secondary education. And so my head is spinning, because everything everyone said is highly, highly effective and also highly important. Um, the conversation around assessments, we can't overlook that, but we have to match assessments to what we're looking for, because if not, we could just assess to be assessing. And for me, is once we provide the appropriate screener for whatever age level we're looking at, the 4 to 12 or 4 to 8, what tools are we providing for the professionals to then be actionable? How do they read the assessments, and then what instruction follows? That to me is almost as important as what tool we use. And so I'm going to be quiet because I have a lot of different ideas that are swirling around in my head, but I appreciate the conversation. I appreciate what everyone offered to the conversation, and it just solidifies for me we have a lot of work to do. And
And we
all of
don't
it
want
is
you
a sense
being
of interest.
quiet. We
And all of
like
it is
when
a
you
sense of
talk.
interest.
Thank you. Okay, so if I'm going alphabetical, who else did we not? Oh, Coyne. Dr. Coyne.
You're calling me by my last name?
I know, sorry, I was doing, and actually I think Conway comes before Coyne, but we'll go with Coyne anyways, because I did yell out, Coyne!
All right.
Apologies, Dr. Coyne.
That's a, yeah, I just wanted to add my thanks to the team that worked on this document, which is just reading it again. I just was really impressed with how comprehensive and how thoughtful that this is, and that this is such an excellent, framework to guide the work in Connecticut. So just a lot of thanks to that, and I also appreciate the conversation. I guess I have one really small question just to ask, which is this going to replace the K3 document, or is the K3 document going to continue to sort of live also? Because I do think the K3 document, in its sort of targeted, focused way, is still has been used, and I've referenced it a lot. So just was a question about whether those two will continue to exist, or will the K-12 sort of replace the K-3?
Yeah, great question. The intent was to have this document replace the K-3. And the reason was because when we initially started the work, the group that was meeting, we talked about, highlighting the sections that would change. And then the whole document was highlighted because we were using more updated terms and things like that. Now, what we could do, and I hadn't thought about doing that, we could have 3 documents, one that says just K3, one that just says 412, and one says K12. But now that I say that out loud, I think we had that conversation and decided to keep it K12 as a whole. Did we, Dr. Stoltz? I think we did. I think that was.
We did previously,
okay.
And decided to keep it whole, in that knowing that educators, leaders would look at their grade configuration and read that, but also have access to what happens before, what happens after, so that you have that sequence of what the literacy strategy looks like at various grade levels.
Okay, thanks. So I guess it's going to replace.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I guess the only thing for my work that I'm thinking about is that, when other states say are surveying, what's going on in K3, they might be less come across the K-12 document. And because it's been sort of existing out there for a while, I know that it's gotten quite a bit of traction nationally too.
Oh, nice. Thank you. That's great.
So if that just goes away, there might there might be people looking for it that aren't able to find it in the K-12. So I
Good point.
agree
Thank you.
with the sort of usefulness in Connecticut of having the
Okay.
K-12. But just a thought as I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, that's a great point, and thank you. That did not come up previously, because you're right. So for those who don't know, there are a lot of agencies out there, organizations who will regularly email us for updates on what we're doing, and they do state by state comparisons as to the work in literacy. And that's a really good point, Dr. Coyne. So thank you for bringing that up. We might have to end up doing that then, having different documents. All right, thank you for that. Thank you for that. I will get back to you on that. And then was there something else that you wanted to share, or that was it? Okay, all right, thank you so much. Should I just keep yelling out last names? Because I could say Conway next.
Love that.
Hey, Conway.
Yeah, I've just been sitting in the background here, kind of just wordsmithing as people are sharing things, wordsmithing parts of the document. The first one that was called out in terms of doing a little bit better job in the language, calling out students' unique abilities, their identities, simple words like lived experiences instead of just experiences. So you're really speaking to their community, their culture that they can bring to the classroom with their learning. I think is so important, and sometimes we miss when we're just looking at the academics. And but what are the students bringing to the classroom that we're not highlighting that will help in the learning as well? And specifically with literacy and calling that out in the document by simply just wordsmithing to include some of those words throughout. And I do like the idea that Superintendent Highsmith brought up and Dr. Coyne was just speaking on of revisiting. I know we've had a few conversations on the grade bands, but I think it does warrant further conversation and maybe a voice from the practitioners themselves in the classrooms on use of the document. We can go back and forth who we're writing this for, policymakers versus practitioners in our schools. And I think that might mean one document for one group and other documents for other groups, possibly, as opposed to just thinking just one for everyone.
Thank you. I'm just jotting down notes. Kati, could you also let Margie in, please? Dr. Gillis?
Yeah, I let her in.
Oh, you did? Oh, perfect. Okay. Thank you so much. So next step, document geared toward different audiences. Right, because we did have that conversation this time about really gearing it toward the educator those professionals who are more the admin. I remember that conversation too. All right, thank you. I'm hearing what you're saying. Documents geared toward other audience. All right. Who else have I not yet heard much from? Our wonderful teacher, our Harvard teacher, Miss Ithier Vicente.
So I've also just been listening and like gathering different ideas, but I know the person that spoke before and someone else has said it before also, but what resonated with me was the part where we talked about fostering a culture of capable learners, because, you know, with everyone brings something from their culture or their background that's important to like helping them with their literacy and their literacy growth. So I think that's very important. I also like the idea that connects with like the leadership team, where it's has someone from each section so that we're working collaboratively, which then I think coincides with the other point of cultivating a trusting collaborative climate. So if everyone's kind of working together with the ML and the SPED and the superintendent and the principals and everyone, I think we can all be on the same page with how we want to take next steps and continue to find ways to improve as a collaborative team. So I think that's what resonated with me the most.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate you sharing. And then I believe it's just Dr. Zevin. Check.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
I'll be quick here. One of the things I think that resonated with me about the document and building it and reading through it is its continual benefit that the science of reading and literacy instruction isn't just about discrete skills. It's not just about K-3. It's not just about phonics. So if you read through it, you see the language around building children's knowledge across all grade bands and how that affects their literacy when they hit the middle grades or the high school grades as well. So I guess I would just give a call out to the language comprehension piece of the plan that balances, I think, the word recognition that we hear so much about in the news and in teacher training and professional development.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, last call for this document. Any questions or comments before we move on to the next agenda item?
Thank you all for such a robust conversation. I think this is where we all live, and being able to take a few minutes to really delve into our literacy strategy and picking it apart, ensuring that everything is incorporated, and then of course adding your own experiences with literacy implementation. So very, very robust conversation. Appreciated. So Dr. Hickey, the tennis ball is going right back to you, and I perhaps just an overview of why this topic of the mandated collection of Connecticut approved K-3 reading curricula is coming up right now.
Oops, sorry. Having some computer difficulty here. Oh, sure, Dr. Soltz, did you want to talk about that, or did you want me to talk about that? I can do it, it's fine.
I think in our meeting to prepare for today, we decided that this is really activities that come through the center, and that you would probably be more adept at describing it. So
I just didn't know if people were tired of hearing my voice. So here we go.
Never.
All right, the mandated collection, and I point here because it's on my screen. So as you know, districts and charter schools are mandated to choose from the approved list from a K-3, either the program or curriculum model. The center is legislated to collect data from the districts and charter schools. So here you'll see the dates and timeline. On June 23rd, we did send out a survey to the superintendents and the charter school directors, asking them to self-report what they had picked from the approved list. What were they utilizing? You can see then the survey closed, and we sent out emails confirming what people had reported, as well as asking, because perhaps over the summer they missed seeing this information and we need to collect it. So then on September 18th, we confirmed reports were collected, meaning the results were collected from all but one district. So we heard from all but one district. The team was amazing. You've met the members. They continuously reached out to the districts and charter schools, once again, to confirm that the information collected was correct before we post it, and also to, if they had not responded, to collect those results. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to give the first view of the collection of the list of K-3 school districts and charter schools. Just so you know, we do not, and we are not interpreting this list or saying that by reporting this, that they are actually in compliance. So you will see that it does not constitute an endorsement of any of the submissions. It is simply doing as the legislation said, to collect this information and then to post it. We are posting it exactly as the districts and charter schools sent to us. So now this is on an Excel sheet right now with the intent to post to the internet, to our website. So let me just pull up that. I have it ready to go here. So I'm just going to give you a view of it. Obviously, if you have questions, we can go over that. You'll see that just to make life easy. So at the center, and I'm pulling it up right now, at the center, we have taken the team and split them up by RESC. So different team members cover different RESCs. That's why you'll see where it says RESC here. And I cannot make this bigger, but you can on your screens. On Teams, you should be able to go down and you'll see where it says, I think it's an arrow. It could be on the left-hand side of your screen. So you'll see where it says the district or the charter school, and that's why it says charter under RESC, if they're a charter school, or the RESC in which they live. And then what they reported, and then if we collected it by the survey or if it was by an email saying, hey, you know, over the summer, sometimes there were transitions in superintendents or charter school directors. So that email it got lost. Other times, like I said, it was during the summer and people were on their various vacations or getting ready for the new year. So it is a long list because there are a lot of districts and schools. So what I'll do is I'll just keep scrolling down. Is there any one that you're particularly, I mean, I could forward down to that if you're interested in. We're almost to the end.
Does anybody have any questions or comments? Even if you can't see the information, I can't really see it.
You can't? I am
Dr.
so sorry.
Hickey, No.
What if I tried?
I have your screen,
Whoa,
so I
how's that?
can't manipulate anything.
Let's
So
do
yes,
that.
much better. Yes,
We'll do it
thank
again.
you.
And then I see
Thank
Dr.
you.
Gillis' hands up.
Just wanted to know, is this posted anywhere?
Not
or
yet.
can
I
we
wanted
get it?
you all to have the first view, much like
Okay.
we did before. I know not everyone was on the council before, but last time we had the council see the waivers and the programs first. before we posted it somewhere.
And Dr. Hickey, the post will look exactly like this.
Well, we're not sure about that. At first, we were going to try to do a map. So there was a map, and if you hover, it would pop up. But you can see where some, it's going to be hard to do. So I'm not sure about that. I think for right now, it would probably just be posted like this. It also has to be, we have very strict guidelines as to how things will look so that everyone would be able to see it or hear it, and it has to be accessible. So this has to be run through an accessibility. So our communications department will help us with that.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'll keep scrolling down. So here we go. I mean, I was very excited to see that, you know, there's so much change going on here in the state. And we're hearing a lot of great reports still, so that's great. Kids are learning. Teachers are learning. It's fun. Any other questions or comments? I'll go through it one more time all the way down. And then we'll keep you posted when it gets posted. There we go. So we now have 178. Oh, I'm sorry. Principal Brown.
So now that the districts have reported what program was adopted, what's the next step?
Good question. Oops, I didn't mean to stop sharing. Oh, sorry. That's a good question. And we are actually going to discuss this now because we would like your feedback. So let me reshare from beginning. And let me get in the right place here. Watch your eyes. I'm going to zoom through this. Okay, so another part of the legislation says that we are mandated to do reviews. These are to be random, independent reviews. So, would love to get your feedback on this as well. Here you'll see that it says per section 10-14 GG, the center shall be responsible by providing these independent random reviews of how our charter schools and our boards of education, our districts, are implementing the approved programs and curriculum models. So to ensure fairness, we're going to be doing this through a random selection method. We're thinking about going by RESC and then having just randomly choosing various districts. And this then would ensure that there's equal opportunity and eliminate any of the potential bias with that selection process. Now, once selected, that charter school district would be notified and would be given details about the timeline, the visit, who's going to be going, what are the objectives, why are we coming to visit, and like it says, it reflects our commitment as a State Department to serve the best interests of all of our LEAs and our students. So what we're thinking about doing, and this is a draft, but what we're thinking about doing is having a 3-step process. After they are randomly selected, then doing kind of like a rounds for some of you who may be accustomed to hearing about instructional rounds. It would be very similar to that. The first step for the district after step 1 of being chosen would be for them to conduct a self-assessment. Where are they? And then we in the center would assist them through identifying a problem of practice, something that they feel needs to have focus around literacy teaching and or learning. And part of this process would include going on walkthroughs through classrooms to gather more information and data to then support the district or charter school in their next steps. So that would be the step process, and I'll go through each of the steps here. So once again, step one, this random selection per the statute, that would be the center staff as well as the literacy leadership team. Most of the districts now have a district or charter school literacy leadership team. This consists usually of the superintendent, assistant superintendent, could be the director of curriculum, the EL/ML, special ed director. They usually have a teacher on there, coaches. So working with their literacy team and engaging in these collaborative conversations and talking about, you know, how is it going? What are your successes? What are your challenges? That would be done with virtual and or in-person meetings, you know, based on what's best for those schools, districts. The next step then would be for, like I said, the district and charter school to have some sort of a self-assessment. There is implementation science that says there are certain things that need to happen in order for a program or a shift to be successful. We've talked about that here in our meetings as well. That it's not just plunking something down. It's really ensuring that that whole ecosystem is prepared and ready. Looking at professional learning, looking at funding, teachers, staff, there's parents and families. So many aspects of this, and using that implementation science to self-assess what's going on in the district. We're thinking about calling, whoops, that was my mistake. I was trying to point. We're thinking about calling this the bridging plans to practice, and that's that self-assessment. That would be a document there. After districts or charter schools self-assess, then what we would be doing is supporting with some literacy walks and gathering information and data so that we can co-design a plan to clarify and focus the work and move forward with this implementation being full and effective. We would be collecting, like I said, data, probably walking into classrooms, taking some notes, looking at, you know, this problem of practice. What are we seeing? What are we hearing? What are the students doing? What are the students saying? What are the teachers saying? And really collecting this descriptive data and then having analysis going with the center staff and literacy team and talking about priorities going forward. We've been very fortunate to be able to provide a lot of professional learning, and some of that professional learning is going to continue despite the ARPA funding sunsetting. But really trying to help, what can we do to help strengthen those systems and structures and fostering connections with other districts. As you know, we are working again with the RESCs to have affinity groups. This really worked out well last year based on a lot of feedback from the districts and charter schools who participated, having them get together and to share these challenges and successes. So what can we do if we find out through these meetings that District A has some challenges that District B has gone through? We can connect the two so that they can help support each other. So that would be the suggested or the draft next step of what we can do to lift all the districts and charter schools. Any questions? I know today's a lot of thinking and we're throwing a lot of things at you. We are constantly moving here at the state and in the center. We have a lot going on, but it's really great stuff. So Dr. Hughes, did you want to say anything too? I'm sorry. And then Dr. Gillis. Dr. Hughes, did you want to say anything to share? He's been so helpful and collaborative all along this process.
Hi, thank you, Melissa. Hi, everyone. What we're really interested in understanding is your initial feedback now, and then giving you the time to think about it and come back to provide us additional feedback. Because again, as Melissa said, we've shared with you quite a bit of information, and we want thoughtful feedback coming to us in the conversation. So I think you covered it very well, Melissa, but I just wanted to add that anecdote just so you all were aware that we don't want you to feel rushed in the conversation to give us an answer now.
Thank you.
On some of the input moving forward. So thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Gillis?
That was a mistake. Sorry about that.
Oh, it was still nice hearing your voice. Thank you. Dr. Oldham, and then I'm going to turn it back to Dr. Stoltz. But Dr. Oldham?
Are you thinking about using an existing tool for self-assessment or creating something state specific?
So, like I said, there is the implementation science around around something like this, and using that as the jumping off point. I can't think of, is it NEEM? No, who's the? So I'll be full.
NERN.
NERN, that's it. Thank
yeah,
you.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if that's the one you were thinking of. Okay.
Okay, thank you. See, teamwork. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. NERN, that's it.
Great, thanks.
Any other questions, responses, reactions?
Yeah,
Superintendent Highsmith.
thank you. I'm going to stay on this whole thing about affinity groups, because affinity groups, by definition, are people who share certain identities or interests. And I found myself in a affinity group with a school or two that did not share my identity or interest. So if we're talking, maybe it's a wrong name for it, affinity groups, but affinity groups are like organizations or like people. And if I don't get that, I don't find that incredibly helpful to work with groups that are not similar to me. So I just want to say, if you're going to call them affinity groups, then that has a certain specific meaning. It's definitional. And if it's not what you're looking for, perhaps we should call it something else.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you adding that. With the RESCs, the reason we called them affinity groups is because, and this is working with all the RESCs, it's been very exciting, every single RESC, is because it was based on the program or the curriculum model that was chosen by the district. So that was their common interest or their common identity. It didn't really reflect this program picked by this type of district with this number of kids. But that is why we chose to go through that name, affinity groups.
Dr.
Year and a
Hickey,
half ago. So I hear what you're saying.
Dr. Hickey, I think it's worth noting that I think Dr. Highsmith, what you're suggesting maybe is that we build flexibility within the process as well. So if the affinity group isn't matching the need of the respective district, there is some flexibility to either change or join another group to continue that opportunity moving forward as well. I think I'm hearing an opportunity there in what you're sharing, as well as some feedback.
But to a degree, I would say that if it's based on program, then if I am matched with a school that's way beyond my socioeconomic status, for example, or way beyond the racial diversity in my district, the program is the unifier, but that's just the unifier. What brings us all together shouldn't be the program then. I think it should be how we are similar, because we're going to face similar struggles, I would believe, in implementation and sustainability. So I would just, again, encourage us to think about how we group people, because that could get in the way of us being able to work collaboratively if we're not facing the same challenges. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm noting that, and I will share that with the rest as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Very
And
thoughtful.
Dr. Conway?
Thank you. Yeah, if you are looking for a district to pilot your review process with prior to actually rolling it out, I will certainly volunteer Derby for that process, just so that the experience that districts do receive during that review process is exactly what's intended in this. And maybe we just an opportunity to try it out and get some real feedback from those that are experiencing it.
Brilliant.
We've
Thank
kept our
you.
affinity group going now. We're in third year past the master class. We do the problem of practice. We visit each other's districts and do rounds with each other. So any one of the 3 districts would be probably open to that as well. If
Perfect.
that's something of interest. And Garrett, my great colleague from down the road there, we've got a great group if you want to join. And I think there's some strong similarities within our districts. And maybe that's why our affinity group just worked so well and wanted to continue the work beyond the master class to continue to learn from each other together. Maybe because of some likeness and similarities in our districts, but you're certainly welcome to join.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. That's brilliant.
Excellent suggestion too.
I think Superintendent Highsmith wants to say something. Did you want to say something?
No, I just wanted to thank Matt for that. And I'll call you
Okay.
offline and tell you that was a really strategic move, because if you're a pilot, then you're not a participant. So good job, Matt. You beat me to it. I appreciate that.
And Dr. Lucero?
So I find that initiatives like this go better when everyone's aware that it's coming. And so I do think that it would be important, and I was just trying to think what's a common meeting that everyone is on, and I think it's probably the commissioners' monthly meeting with the superintendents and leaders of charter schools, because if there is not one message that's delivered so that everyone knows it's coming, and they understand how people are going to be selected, and they understand what the end goal is, I think that it causes disruption and angst and all sorts of craziness. So I would really highly suggest, far in advance of us starting, that it is clearly spelled out what this is, what this isn't, and it is presented either at a meeting where all people are invited to it, or at a meeting that everyone should be there. Because just receiving a random letter, which has happened to me twice in the last 6 months, that people are just going to show up and, you know, sort of do this, is sometimes it harms the process unnecessarily before it gets started.
Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you very
Lucero,
much.
for your feedback and actionable feedback on that too. Dr. Hickey, any other last comments before we formally adjourn? I don't see any other hands raised.
My last comment is this time always goes so fast. I'm just going to show our upcoming meetings. But no, thank you all so much. This is always so important. You know, the conversation we have about one word, we often have these conversations. So it started with Dr. Stoltz bringing up the strengths and what word should we use there. It kind of ended with Superintendent Highsmith talking about affinity and what that means. talk about the power of words. Dr. Hughes, my big supervisor there, would like to talk, so let's let him talk before we leave. Dr. Hughes.
Never been given that title before, Melissa, but thank you very much. I just wanted to thank you all for the feedback, and I wanted to queue up the question as to if others ruminate about this and want to provide us additional feedback, Melissa, how might they do so that it can be shared?
So we have to be very cautious because when we're because we're a council, if they email everyone, it constitutes a meeting, and that would have to be told ahead of time. So what we do is, if you have ideas, then they would email me and Kati, and in that way we could share out at the next meeting. Because once again, if we do include other people, then it becomes a meeting. So we could do that, Dr. Hughes, is that what you're thinking?
Yes, because I also wanted to be responsive to Dr. Lucero's point around kind of a heads up to districts. But being that we have a scheduled meeting in December 16th, I want to make sure that we can operate as a council and gather the appropriate feedback, and perhaps with Dr. Conway testing out some of the processes before we deploy or even announce fully are all important pieces of the process that we should probably attend to. So I just want to make sure everybody understood that they can continue to provide us feedback if you've had additional ideas or thoughts on the matter. It sounds individually to Dr. Hickey and Kati. So thank you.
Yeah, once again, we so appreciate everybody's expertise, knowledge, questions, thoughts. You're a great group. Really appreciate it.
I agree, Dr. Hickey. Oh, do we have another comment?
Oh, did we have a comment? Oh, no. Okay.
Thank you all for your engagement in this, and we will see you on December 16th. So enjoy the rest of October and early November till we meet again. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.
Bye. Thank you all.
Bye-bye.